So, right now, there is this piece of software quietly running in the background of the web. And developers actually describe it in their own internal documentation using just one highly specific word. They call it Borg-like.
Yeah, Borg-like,
Hmm.
which is quite the mental image, honestly.
Right. Welcome to another deep dive. Today's mission is really about exploring the sheer scale of modern web architecture. But maybe more importantly, we're looking at how you can actually wrap your head around managing massive AI integrated digital ecosystems, without completely losing your mind.
And honestly, it's a critical skill set right now. I
Okay.
mean, the web has fundamentally shifted from this collection of static pages into a network of highly automated living systems.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't have the right mental framework to manage that complexity, you just end up overwhelmed so quickly.
Exactly. So, to help us build that framework, we're pulling from a pretty fascinating stack of sources today. We've got developer notes, architectural overviews, and the official documentation for a platform called Luminal CMS.
Yeah. And we're using Luminal as our case study today
Yeah.
because it just perfectly tracks an evolution that is happening across the entire industry.
Right. The developers actually note how this software morphed from a relatively simple background manager into this massive integrated, well, Borg-like content management system.
Which is a huge leap.
It is. And whether you are a seasoned web professional building out multi-site networks or someone trying to scale an agentic AI business, understanding the mechanics of a system like this is just mandatory.
The term Borg-like is incredibly telling here, I think. It implies assimilation, right? It implies that every disparate tool or plugin or script you use is just being absorbed into one collective, highly integrated hive mind.
Right, which actually brings up a major point of friction right out of the gate. In the developer notes, they ask if this platform is a good training ground for beginners.
Oh, right. And their conclusion is pretty blunt.
Yeah. They say it is, frankly, out of reach for novices, but extremely comfortable for seasoned web professionals. My immediate reaction to that is, well, why are we building tools that actively alienate beginners? Shouldn't our web architecture be getting more intuitive, not more intimidating?
It's a fair question, but we have to look at how the baseline of what we expect a website to do has changed. Like if you go back to the drag and drop builders of the past, the goal was digital publishing.
Right, you dragged a text box, dropped in a photo, hit publish, done.
Exactly.
Right.
But modern web architecture, the kind we see evolving in Luminal CMS, isn't about digital brochures anymore. It's about ecosystem orchestration.
Ecosystem orchestration. Yeah.
It's intimidating to a novice because when you log in, you aren't looking at a blank page. You are essentially stepping into the control room of a facility.
But wait, if you have your page builder, your database management, your API routing, your security protocols, if all of that is consolidated into one centralized dashboard, isn't that a massive single point of failure?
How do you mean?
Like, if an operator clicks the wrong dial on the security authentication, doesn't the whole ecosystem just come crashing down?
Ah, okay. Well, that is exactly why it is intimidating to a novice, but comfortable for a professional. A professional understands that a centralized dashboard doesn't mean a flat architecture.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Sure. So the UI is centralized, right? But the underlying mechanisms are strictly compartmentalized. Luminal CMS is designed to accommodate diverse users from content creators to back-end developers by using really rigid permission structures and standardized data models.
So the complexity is there on purpose.
The complexity is the feature, not the bug, because it gives the operator absolute control over how different components talk to each other.
Interesting. So to understand how this Borg actually functions without collapsing in on itself, we really need to look at its structural foundation.
Yes, the fundamental building blocks.
Right. Before we even touch the AI integrations, how is the content physically assembled in the database? Looking at the Luminal documentation, they have a page manager that handles complex two-column layouts and injects per-page CSS.
Mm-hmm.
They have a gallery manager that unifies images, video, and PDFs into a single database structure, and a menu manager for building complex mobile hierarchies.
Right, and the key mechanism tying all those managers together is something they call content stacks.
Yeah, let's look at that. These content stacks act like, it sounds less like writing a document and more like prefabricating a house. Instead of building from scratch every time, you have these reusable blocks.
With specific practical use cases, yeah.
But I have to push back here for a second. Reusable content blocks are a standard practice across almost every modern web framework. What makes Luminal's approach to this structurally significant?
Well, the significance isn't the block itself, it's how the block is validated by the system's security architecture. The documentation specifically highlights their user management system.
Right, the one anchored by that core file, guard.php.
Exactly. That authentication system, combined with strict session management, acts as the ultimate gatekeeper. So when you drop a content stack onto a page, you aren't just placing a visual element.
You're deploying a standardized unit of data.
Yes. A standardized unit that guard.php instantly recognizes and knows how to safely process.
Okay, I see the distinction now. So if I decide to use the page manager to inject custom CSS on a specific landing page, the system isolates that code.
Right.
It doesn't write it to a global style sheet where it might conflict with another page's layout down the line.
Precisely. The CSS is scoped to that specific content stack and validated by the framework. And this is just crucial for stability at scale.
Because if things aren't scoped properly, everything breaks.
Exactly. If you want to suddenly spin up 100 new pages for a massive product launch, you know that every single content stack you deploy will play perfectly with the database, the routing rules, and the security protocols.
The standardization of those building blocks is what allows the framework to bear massive weight.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And we really need to talk about that weight. Because you don't over-engineer a foundation with strict guard.php validation and modular content stacks just to host a simple blog.
No, definitely not.
You build a foundation like that because of what you are about to plug into it. This is where the platform truly shifts into the Borg. We are no longer looking at a content repository. We are looking at a highly integrated business engine.
The integration explosion. It represents a total paradigm shift in web architecture.
Oh, the sheer volume of modules mentioned in the docs is staggering. Just to establish the scale here on the e-commerce side, they have a proprietary MyStore setup.
Yeah.
Deep integrations with Printful for print-on-demand fulfillment, affiliate product flows. On the media side, they run Events Manager Pro, Facebook Events integrations, podcast managers, and YouTube playlist studios.
It's a massive surface area to govern.
It is. And then there is the AI suite. Native AI Assist in the Page Manager, a prompt commons, an agent scheduler, MCP servers, and even Notebook LM podcast integrations.
Right, all living under one roof.
Which leads me to what I think is the most critical question of this entire deep dive. When you have this many external API keys flying around, keys for AI models, payment gateways, video hosting, print-on-demand fulfillment, how does one person or even a small team oversee all these moving parts?
It sounds chaotic, right?
Sounds like a nightmare. How do you prevent your architecture from becoming a tangled mess of disconnected services?
So this is where we have to fundamentally shift how we think about our roles in relation to technology. To run a system like this, you have to completely abandon the mindset of a coder and adopt the mindset of a chief executive officer, a director, a CEO mindset. I'm struggling to picture the day-to-day reality of that, though. Like, if I'm used to writing code and building features, what am I actually doing as the CEO?
Yeah.
Am I just sitting back and monitoring dashboards all day while the APIs do the work? No, you are actively orchestrating how the systems communicate. There's a great analogy in technical circles that perfectly describes this shift, the Riff Guy versus the composer.
Okay, the Riff Guy versus the composer. I like that.
Right. So the Riff Guy is the developer who can write a brilliant, highly complex custom Python script to scrape a website, or maybe craft an incredibly clever multi-shot prompt for an AI model.
Like someone playing a really fast, impressive guitar solo.
Exactly. It's a cool, isolated skill. But the composer might not write code from scratch at all. The composer understands how the API from the AI model interacts with the database schema of the e-commerce store, and how that triggers a webhook to the email marketing platform. They are thinking in systems.
So the liminal CMS dashboard, that is essentially the conductor's podium.
That is exactly what it is. When you are shepherding advanced AI tools into a solid architectural framework, acting as the composer is the only way to avoid the whole garbage in, garbage out scenario. Let's look at the specific mechanisms you mentioned from the docs, the agent scheduler, and the MCP servers.
Right. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's essentially a standardized way for an external AI model to securely access local data.
Correct. So let's say you want an AI agent to automatically update pricing on your print-on-demand products based on market trends.
Okay.
The Riff Guy tries to hack together a script that constantly pings the AI, downloads a file, and forcefully overwrites the database. It's brittle.
Because it'll break the moment the AI hallucinates a formatting error. Right.
Exactly. Crashes the whole site.
Right.
But the composer uses the framework.
Yes. The composer uses the Luminal dashboard to configure an MCP server. They set strict permission boundaries.
Exactly. They tell the AI, look, you only have read-and-write access to this specific set of variables within the MyStore module.
And then they use the agent scheduler to dictate exactly when the AI is allowed to perform the task.
Yes. Because the system uses standardized content stacks, when the AI agent delivers the new pricing data, the CMS safely parses it, validates it through the security protocols, and updates the page layout without breaking the CSS.
That makes total sense. The composer isn't writing the AI's logic. The composer is building the secure sandbox that the AI operates within. You are directing the flow of data.
And this relates directly to the future of work. I mean, we are rapidly moving toward the company of one operator model.
The company of one.
Yeah, a single individual can run an incredibly vast, agentic, AI-driven business. But building those systems requires strategic, architectural direction rather than raw coding skills.
So the Luminal documentation isn't just a manual for how to click buttons in a software program?
No, not at all.
It's actually a technical roadmap for how to be the director of a digital ecosystem.
Precisely.
I love that framing.
Yep.
You aren't building a website, you are directing an orchestra of AI agents and APIs. But even as the director, I have to imagine that managing the underlying server infrastructure for an entire network of these installations is pretty daunting.
Oh, it's a huge task.
Right. If I'm a company of one running a dozen different Luminal instances for various brands, I still have to deal with the raw server administration. Which brings us to the most unexpected part of the developer notes we reviewed today.
The central metaphor they use to teach multi-site infrastructure management.
Yes. The developers introduce a concept they call the farm-out manager, and they explicitly state in the notes that this is a nod to oil industry slang.
Which is such a weird place to draw inspiration from for web development.
It really is. They even reference the TV show Landman. In the Texas oil business, a farm-out is a designated region of remote oil wells that a company has to govern, drill, re-drill, and maintain.
Right.
The developers took this rugged, heavy industry concept and applied it directly to web hosting. In their system, the farm-out manager is this mothership or master control center that governs your entire network of remote Luminal websites.
It's a deliberate effort to take the abstract nature of server administration and make it highly physical.
They literally write that they want to transform the, quote, sometimes boring view of mindless servers who need the latest updates into a field of websites.
A field of websites?
Yeah. Under the farm-out manager, your e-commerce modules and external sites morph from digital files into oil pads and pumps. But I have to ask, why use a metaphor at all? Why not just build a clean, standard dashboard and call it a multi-site network administrator?
Right.
Like, does pretending a server is an oil well actually change the mechanical workflow?
It absolutely changes the workflow because of how it shapes your cognitive load.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what server-side operations actually entail.
Okay.
We're talking about tracking raw server-level traffic logs with the docs called vstats analytics. We're talking about renewing SSL configurations.
Right, the cryptographic certificates that keep browsers from blocking your site.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about monitoring cron jobs, which are those hidden automated scripts that perform routine maintenance, like purging old cache memory while you sleep.
None of which has any physical shape. It's just lines of text in a terminal window. It is incredibly dry, abstract data.
Exactly. The human brain struggles to maintain vigilance over vast amounts of invisible data. It's hard to feel a sense of urgency when a cron job fails on site number 7,
Yeah, it's just a blip on a screen.
Right. But the farm-out manager isn't just a cute naming convention. It's a diagnostic visualization tool. The mothership holds the master API tokens to securely communicate with the remote installations. And when you log in, the dashboard represents those remotes as physical infrastructure.
So how does that look when something actually breaks?
So if one of your e-commerce nodes starts failing its cron jobs or its vstats, show a massive drop in traffic because an SSL configuration expired, the dashboard doesn't just give you a text error.
What does it do?
It visually surfaces that failure as a drop in pressure on a specific pump within your farm-out.
Oh.
Yeah. It instantly tells the operator where they need to deploy resources. It injects a bit of wit into the work, sure, but primarily, it forces you to maintain that high-level operational mindset. You can actually see the field.
It goes right back to the idea of being the CEO. The person running a massive oil operation isn't out in the mud with a wrench on every single pipe.
Right.
They are looking at the farm out from the mothership. They are directing the flow of resources based on systemic feedback.
And that systemic view is the only way an individual operator can successfully govern a Borg-like CMS network. You have to conceptualize the infrastructure in a way that your brain can easily map, monitor, and diagnose.
It perfectly ties together this entire architectural evolution. We started by looking at how web platforms have fundamentally outgrown this simple drag-and-drop publishing model.
Yep.
We explored the mechanics of the foundation, how standardized content stacks and strict guard.php validations create an environment stable enough to handle massive complexity.
And we saw how that structural stability allows operators to integrate powerful AI tools through secure MCP servers and agent schedulers.
Right, transforming the user from a Riff Guy writing isolated scripts into a composer directing a symphony of data.
Exactly.
And finally, we looked at how you actually maintain oversight of that massive multi-site ecosystem without losing your mind. By utilizing cognitive tools like the Farm Out Manager, you turn the headache of abstract server administration into a visual, manageable oil field overseen by a central mothership.
It's a complete mental shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
The ultimate takeaway for you listening right now is this. Whether you are managing a single, highly customized application or trying to build an automated empire of AI-driven sites, having a robust architectural framework and a strong mental model to navigate it is everything. The architecture dictates what is possible. If you understand the blueprint, you control the system.
You have to build the sandbox before you can let the agents play in it.
Exactly. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with something to chew on. Something that pushes this mental model just a bit further.
Okay, let's hear it.
So right now, we view our digital infrastructure as a farm out. It is a field of pumps that requires our oversight, our maintenance, and our strategic direction from the comfort of the mothership. We are the composers.
Right.
But considering the sheer speed at which these integrated AI tools are advancing, I mean, the agent schedulers that can already read databases and update layouts, what happens when those tools become capable enough to act as the drillers themselves?
Wow. Yeah, that is the exact horizon the industry is hurtling toward.
Right. When the system can autonomously monitor its own SSL certificates, deploy its own optimized content stacks based on real-time VStats, and repair its own failing e-commerce pumps, will we still be sitting in the mothership looking down at the field? Or will the digital oil field simply learn to govern itself?
Leaving us to figure out what a composer's role even is when the orchestra no longer needs a conductor.
Exactly. Just how autonomous is the Borg gonna get?
It's the defining question for the next era of the web.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep building, and remember to occasionally step back and look at the blueprints, not just the glass. We'll catch you next time.